It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 271. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hi.
Grace.
Hello.
Kotra.
Honk.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hey.
Yeah, I was trying to resort things in my mind, and I don't know if I succeeded, but so welcome back, Grace.
Thank you. I spent several weeks away not playing any video games except for Dragalia Lost.
I've played an excessive amount of Dragalia Lost.
Now is a really good time to be playing Dragalia Lost.
It's true facts.
It is.
What is up with Dragalia Lost right now?
For the last week and some change, it's been like a free 10 summon every single day.
It's the anniversary.
Wow. It would be.
And that has been real nice.
Oh yeah, you can get a ton of stuff at high speeds.
Well, and just like, I guess it was yesterday, it finally ended, or day before yesterday. But prior to that, you could get like most of the Gala versions of characters in your summons. And I got Cerise, and I got, I don't know, the Void Mage lady that's like a main character that I can't ever remember the name of. Cleo, yeah.
I just got the main character.
And I got the Wind Axe dude that now has a sword. Rangal or whatever. I don't remember the names of these people.
The important part is that the 5-star drop rate was increased for that event, so it was good time.
Ooh.
Yeah, I had been like, I knew it was coming, so I had like bankrolled all of my Wormite so that I could do a bajillion summons.
I ended up with a lot of dragons, but for all the Wormite I dumped into it, I didn't really end up with very many new adventurers, so I was sad.
Yeah, I had to empty out my dragons a couple times because I kept getting like the bronze and silver dragons that just mostly clog up your inventory.
Dragons are surprisingly good, but yeah,
yes.
Not so much for 3 stars.
Yes, but I already have one of each maxed out, I think.
Fair enough.
Like you only really need one of each dragon.
Well, you need 5 total, but
I don't know. Like I like equipping mine with different dragons. I don't really. I mean, like I don't usually equip the same dragon on everybody.
But you need
that's
5
what I
of
mean.
them
You need
to
5
unbind.
to fully unbind.
Right. Yeah, but
After that, then yeah, not so much.
Feed your dragon clones of itself.
It's a very
Which is
weird thing with this
disturbing.
game.
Yeah, I'm glad we don't have to do that with adventurers. That'd feel real weird.
So, dragons only matter as supers, right?
No, they provide stats.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes that's more important.
Yes.
Aha!
Some of them are exceptionally good stat sticks.
Some of them do have amazing supers. Like Rock is a 4-star dragon, not that great as a stat stick, although it is a large amount of attack. But the super is a big giant AoE stun that works on a lot of bosses.
I think the silver that I like the most is the unicorn.
I think Phoenix is also a silver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the region everybody.
This is... I think I mentioned this before, but this is definitely a game where I never felt like I got to the point where I understood like what was really going on. It was one of those things where I didn't ever... Like, I never encountered what I would have considered like any sort of resistance that would have made me like want to really like dig in and understand the systems, and so I never really got attached to the systems.
Let me introduce you to void fights and high-end dragon fights.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing for me was the first raid event was, okay, I have to understand how the systems actually work now.
Yeah, that was definitely a thing.
Yeah, and I think part of it is I didn't go into the raid events at all. And this might just be because, like, I look at a raid event and I'm like, wait a second, that's for high-level players. I don't go to those things. And I'm getting the impression that that's an incorrect assessment of this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
Yes.
are multiple difficulties of any given event, and the lowest difficulty is very much intended for even people who just started to play.
Like
Can
a lot of the
get into it.
a lot of the low difficulty things are only like, what, 1300 power or whatever?
Yeah, it's
Like,
something. It's a number you'll
real
reach
low.
rather quickly.
Yep.
It makes me want to come back and try it again, like with fresh eyes, because I know I got decently far in the story. It's just eventually I was like, well, I'm doing these story missions, and this is a story that is happening at me, but none of these feel like particularly engaging yet.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's exactly a story-driven game.
It's a game with a ton of story, but that's not
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
True
just
facts.
like Destiny has a ton of story, but like we went into that at length last week.
The story in this game is mostly revolving around the characters and sometimes their interactions with each other, but not always. Usually their interactions with the main character set.
Some of the stories are joke stories, some of the stories are serious stories.
You don't really know what you're getting into before you get into one.
Like, one of my all-time favorite stories was the Wind Samurai that wanted to be a maid. I can't remember the name of the character. It's one of those characters that I long ago stopped using because I got golds to replace it, but yeah, it's still, like, I'm shocked and amazed that it, like, this long after it came out, I'm still playing it pretty much on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, other things that have happened this week is that the Destiny Shadowkeep expansion went out, and I have been obsessing with it. And I know we talked at length about Destiny last week, but, expansion came out, so we're going to talk about it some more.
Yep.
Seems reasonable.
Like, if you could build an expansion that was perfectly tailored towards my interests, I'm pretty sure Shadowkeep would be that expansion. Because, like, we've talked about this before, but my favorite thing to do in Destiny is to roam around and patrol. And the moon is, like, this super intricate zone. And it's pretty much the moon from Destiny 1, but, like, a bunch of stuff has changed since we last visited its surface. But, like, the fact that I remember how the layout of the moon works is a benefit, except for there's some areas that are now opened up and other areas that were closed off before, other new areas, like lots of new areas, and the hive has dug too deep, and like the entire inside of the moon is now dug out and full of hive tunnels that you can roam around. It's like it's this weird mix of the moon from Destiny 1 plus like the Dreadnought from Destiny 1. And there's tons of event triggers and little mini activities and things going on and doodads to find and events to kick off and I have like I should have probably gotten through the story already, but like I didn't have to keep going in the story, so I haven't finished it off. But I've hit the power soft cap. And that whole thing is interesting. Like, you're no longer seemingly gated by the story. You can choose to do the story if you want to do the story, or you could just choose to do activities if you want to do activities. And I am a huge fan of that, and I will eventually make my way through. But like on my alts, there's a lot of stuff that I never did on them because I didn't have to, because I had like, once you had unlocked the content once, you didn't have to do it again. So I didn't. But there's a bunch of stuff going on that's really interesting. First off, the new light stuff is kind of interesting in that the original Destiny game, or Destiny 2 game, and the first year's worth of content, as well as a bunch of activities that came in along the way, is now just free for somebody to download off Steam. And that's kind of cool, even though at least one person seemed to take, umbrage with the fact that they were giving away stuff that he paid for full price for.
Oh my god, I feel like my head hurts from the eye roll I just did.
Yeah. So what's interesting is like that and the move to Steam have had some bizarre side effects. Like, Steam has a very liberal policy on naming conventions, and you can change your name on a regular basis.
Yes.
So it also supports full emoji. So, yeah, you get some really weird names roaming around.
Here's some people who figure out how to get Destiny-specific symbols into their name just by using the Unicode for them.
Yes, it's kind of interesting. You also have, for whatever reason, and I don't necessarily fully understand this, you now have your set symbol beside your name so that, like, when you're out in the world at a distance, they can immediately tell what class you are. So that's a thing. But yeah, so New Light has been interesting, and with it, they redid the original Cosmodrome mission where you, like, go pick up your first weapon and you get scanned by your ghost, and that essentially leads your way to Tower 2.0. So storyline wise, it's as though you are a guardian that is just now getting resurrected.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
So
Seems weird.
So instead of you're from Destiny 1, you're just a new guardian, and you go to the tower and you go through a series of missions that, like, kind of show you the ropes of how to do the EDZ or whatever, and you can go talk to Holiday, the machinist vehicle merchant, and she has a bunch of quests that will basically open up and let you do the Red War or the Forsaken storyline or Curse of Osiris, or basically the story content.
You have access to the original Destiny 2 storyline then?
Yeah.
Yes,
like,
you have access to the original Destiny 2 storyline.
And how does that make any sense for you to have access to that, I guess?
I think you're basically reminiscing about the Red War.
that
I don't
happened
know.
while you were dead.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know. I've not started a new character. I may do that
Weird.
on my Warlock that I don't really care about. Because the other weird thing that happened is if you were a Destiny 2 player to this point, all of your gear is basically level 750 now. Didn't matter when you got it. Everything in your vault got bumped to 750. And 750 is now the base level cap of doing content. And I would assume the game ushers you quickly up to 750 if you're a New Light player.
So is that what you were saying is the new thing with light levels?
Yeah, so as I understand it, 750 is now the baseline. And anytime there's a seasonal reset, light will reset as well. And you'll regain your light. And I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. I know there's an artifact that gives you a boost in light level, that you gain experience on your artifact, and every so often it gives you an extra point of light.
Is this like going with the Diablo 3 seasons mentality where you start over from scratch each season?
Yes and no. I know the artifact resets back to 0. So you basically have to re-unlock the artifact, and the perks that are on the artifact will change each season. They also added in a Fortnite-style season pass, where every level you unlock something, and there's a free pack and a premium pack, or path.
Okay.
Those are quite common now.
Yeah, so it's that same thing. So, like, level 1 on the premium path, you get an exotic handed to you and a set of exclusive seasonal armor. Now, that's just like, just log in, and it's sitting there waiting on you. And then at like level 2 on the free path, you get some upgrade modules, and on the paid path, you get like some legendary shards. Level 3, you get some glimmer on the free path, and on the premium path, you get a permanent boost to your earned glimmer. So, like, you basically get a bonus. Like, every time you do anything, you get a little extra glimmer. And there's a lot of those throughout the paid path. Like, there's a small fire team XP boost that's just a base thing. There's...
Now, are those permanent benefits that last beyond the season?
No. They're only for the season. And the seasons are roughly 3 months long.
So this is the...
It's a battle pass.
It's a battle pass.
Yes,
it's exactly a battle pass.
But wait a second, because it's not just a battle pass. Because battle passes, for the most part, are once you have earned the reward for the battle pass, you don't lose that reward.
I don't know. Like, I don't know specifically. Yeah, so it specifically calls it a seasonal bonus. Now, like, all of the items that you earn stay, but these bonuses that you get every so often are, like, during the course of the season.
So there's a big thing to the psychology of this that makes me kind of feel a little gross about what you're saying. Because one of the things with the battle passes is you can, in a lot of cases, look at what you have earned. Look at what you would get if you buy the battle pass, and you can decide, is it worth it for me to purchase this battle pass? Because, and you can do that like on the last day of the season.
I think it works that way here too.
But if there are rewards in the battle pass progression that only apply to the season of the battle pass you purchase it, then that's not necessarily true. Because you might want, because if you want to have those rewards take place, then you need to buy this battle pass early, and you don't get to know whether it was worth it or not until after the season's over.
So far, I'm looking at all these little bonuses, and they all mostly seem to be XP gain, or things that increase, speed your way through an XP grind. Because basically, what you're doing is, you remember previously when you dinged after you hit whatever the level cap was, you would start gaining loot boxes, for lack of a better term. The little engrams with cosmetic stuff in them.
Yeah.
Right.
And like every time you leveled up, you got one of those. Now, that whole system is gone, and instead, there's a free XP track and a paid XP track. And like, the free XP track has a thing happening every single level until 20. And then 21 doesn't have anything, but 22 and 23 do. 24 doesn't have anything, but 25, 26, 27, 28 do. So like, it becomes more sporadic until you get to like 35, where it's like every 3 or 4 levels you get a thing. Now, I will say, like, all of the weapons that you earn along the way, you get them in both the free path and the paid path. But like, the exotic that you get at level 1 with the paid path, it takes you rank 35 before you can get that exotic. But yeah, I mean, it's just a different thing. Like, I'm not sure what to think about it yet. Like, it doesn't bother me because I've always bought the season passes for the seasonal content. But yeah, it's weird to have the Fortnite-esque battle pass in this game.
I mean, given the crackdown on loot boxes, it seems likely that will be the way forward for a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they re-engineered the shop too, to where like there are no loot boxes anymore. There are cosmetics for sale, but like, they're just direct purchases.
I'm trying to think. Warframe also took out their quote unquote loot boxes in the mod packs.
Yeah, I kind of think the writing's been on the wall. So everyone's going to be removing loot boxes.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, did you see Valve's solution?
Which one? Like, there's the EA solution recently where, like, instead of, you get like an X-ray machine or something that you can use to see
was Valve.
No, that was EA, I think.
No, that's Valve.
No.
In CS:GO.
Okay, well then there was another game that did the exact same thing too. But it's Ubisoft in the new
Ghost Recon?
Ghost Recon, yeah. Where you can use the X-ray, but like, you can't use it again until you purchase the item to clear it out of the way.
Yep.
So you know what the loot box is going to be, but you can't get a different one until you bought it.
Box.
You can't
That-
ever get anything different.
That's
Yeah.
So it's a loot box.
Yeah.
yeah, like, okay, you know what it is, but yeah, you still have to buy it.
This reminds me entirely too much of something we've talked about recently. The act in EverQuest of buying items from the vendor to uncover items that are underneath the items on the vendor. So one thing that happened with the last season, the Season of Opulence, is they put in basically a looking for raid mode encounter, but it wasn't just like an LFR version of the actual raid. It was A similarly themed raid set place on the Leviathan that was in a mode called Menagerie, where you basically do a number of encounters until you gain enough favor with Callus, and then a big boss is summoned and you kill the big boss.
Okay.
And if you're really good at it, you can do it in like 3 encounters. But if you're not doing so hot with a bunch of random players, you just keep doing encounters over and over until you do enough to get the points with Callus.
How have the Guardians become so lonely that we are now friends with Callus?
I mean, Callus gives us good stuff.
That was early in Destiny 2, I think.
Yeah.
That was basically immediately after the conclusion of the story, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
He pays them. He pays them to be his friends.
Yes,
Isn't Callus the one we kill?
No. Callus is the one that was deposed by Gaul, the guy we killed.
Callus is hedonism bot flying around space in his amazing golden spaceship.
Isn't
he was the boss of the
Callus-
first raid.
Yes, that. Isn't he the one we fight in the first raid?
Yes, we fight a robot of his.
I beg your pardon. I distinctly remember fighting him in that stupid floating chair.
No, someone that wealthy doesn't fight you themselves. They have bots for that.
No, like if you successfully kill Callus, like the face falls off and there's like mechanical workings underneath, and he congratulates you on, you know, the good show of force, and here's some prizes for our time. Basically, Callus has been toying with us for like the better part of Destiny 2, and like right now on the planet of Nessus, and this went in with the Season of Opulence, there's basically a party barge, Jabba-esque party barge sitting on Nessus.
I repeat my original statement. Why are we friends with this guy? Why are we
Because he pays us really well.
Because players are subject to bribery.
He has really good weapons. That's legitimately it. Like, he has really good weapons. But anyway, so this encounter went in, and it was really interesting, the Menagerie. And, like, I liked the way that it scaled so that if you failed some of the encounters, you just did some more encounters. And it was like this greatest hits collection of simplified versions of the stuff from Leviathan and the 2 additional Leviathan-based raids. So it was this cool LFR mode. So you go in there, you know, matchmake your way into some content, get some cool weapons, get some armor, and there was this whole system that allowed you to target what loot you were wanting, which is way too complicated to explain on a podcast. But yeah, like there was this whole mechanism that allowed you to, you know, spend some resources and like only get hand cannon drops. If you were wanting a specific roll on a hand cannon, you could get a bunch of hand cannons. But anyway, it was interesting. But in Shadowkeep, they have a similar event like that going on that's Vex theme. So I like that they're continuing this thing of having a sorta kinda not quite raid content that still gets you access to some of the interesting weapons without actually raiding.
So you mentioned the moon is this new zone, right?
Yes.
Is there anything about it that makes it divergent as a open world zone from the stuff that's already in Destiny 2? Like this is in this whole conversation, I'm kind of like trying to hear what are they doing that's new and different?
I mean,
or is it just like a new zone?
It's a new zone with new systems and new like mini games you can do to get different kinds of loot. It's a loot grind. I mean, it's always going to be a loot grind. And each time there's a thing that opens up, it like opens up a new pool of items that you can go after that are only obtainable in each one of these destinations. Like, there were some really amazing items that were only available on Mars through these escalation protocol events that happened on that planet. And, you know, still to this day, even though those are weapons that predate the changes that went in with Forsaken, Like, those items are worth going out and getting because of the infusion system, and you can make them viable and they still stay in the meta. The moon gives you a bunch of other levers to pull to chase different things that only exist in the moon. There are these Vex invasions on the moon, which just started up today with the opening of the raid. And they're interesting, and I don't quite fully understand them, but they have their own series of armor and weapons that are available for you to go after. Eris Morn has like a series of items that start through her, basically. Well, they actually start off of a drop somewhere out in the world, and it will be an item that needs to be cleansed, and you work with Eris Morn to figure out how to cleanse it. And it's usually do some objectives out in the world, like go kill some stuff with that type of weapon, or go find some object down in the bowels of the moon and bring it back to her after doing a bunch of objectives, and it'll turn into a weapon. And once you've gotten one of those, you can start over again at the step that is do a bunch of objectives and kill a bunch of things with that weapon type and get a different roll. So you can continue trying to get the perfect roll on an item. But mostly it's different areas, different encounters, same basic thing. Like, I mean, it's more Destiny.
So if you like Destiny, this is cool because it's more Destiny.
Basically, yeah. Destiny is not a transcendent experience. Destiny is a loot grinder, and if you don't go in for loot grinders, then you probably won't ever like Destiny.
It's weird because I convinced myself that I didn't like grinding for loot because I haven't done it in basically any of these. I haven't liked any of these loot grinder games, but playing vanilla classic WoW, boy am I charting what pieces of gear I'm hunting for and trying to work my way towards them. And like, I thought I liked loot grinding when I was younger, and I don't like loot grinding anymore because I lack the time to do it. But no, like, I do like grinding for loot, but I need to feel very directed in my loot grinding.
I would like to point out that almost all of the loot you're grinding for in Classic is deterministic.
Yeah, it's fixed rolls.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
Not only is the piece of loot itself fixed, how you get it is also mostly fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and that is one thing that's changed a little bit is so there are random rolls. The things that can roll on a weapon are well documented on various sundry sites that, you know, can go through the data of Destiny. Like, so this weapon can have this, and this. Like, so if that sounds like it's a good option, then there are now more targeted means to go after that one specific item that you want. But it's still loot a dozen of these items, trying to get the one that you actually wanted.
Like, and again though, like, can I say, I'm going to do a strike. I'm going to keep doing this strike because I know that this strike drops that item?
Well, so they moved away from things dropping out of strikes like that. And there are a bunch of these systems that, there is a pool of random world drop items. And that's the same ones that have been in since the beginning. But as they've added new areas with new weapon types, they come from very specific activities. Like, so Escalation Protocol on Mars, it is in a 4-week cycle, and what can drop is specific to that week. So, like, say this week the shotgun can drop, and next week the sniper rifle can drop, and the week after that the submachine gun can drop, and then you've got a week where anything can drop, and then the cycle resets and it's back to the sniper rifle again. So, like, there's very fixed ways of getting it. So, like, the Eris Morn weapons that are in this expansion and the Vex-themed weapons that are in this expansion both have a directed way, like, I want a version of this scout rifle. I'm going to keep doing an activity over and over that is going to reward me that scout rifle, and each time it will have slightly different stats, if that makes sense.
I think this is back to one of the things is I don't like getting a whole bunch of loot. One of the things I'm discovering is I like to get less, more meaningful loot.
Yeah, then Destiny is not that game. It is very much like Diablo.
Yeah.
You're going to get showered in loot, and you're going to have to figure out, is this loot meaningful to me, or am I going to shard it and then take the materials that I got to fuel me turning a different version of the thing into what I actually wanted? I mean, the economy of infusion and that sort of stuff requires you to have a bunch of fodder to turn into the materials that you will ultimately use to keep the few items that you like up to date. But for me, like, I like slightly imperfect rolls. Like, there may be a single stat, or like there may be a perk that I'm specifically wanting, but I'm not really sure which of the things that pair with it I actually want. So, like, I will spend time playing with each of them and deciding, you know, the meta says this is the best stat, but which one actually feels the best to me? So I spend an excessive amount of time trying out all these different weapons to see which one I actually want to keep. Because, like, a game like Destiny is about feel more than it is about numbers, at least for me. It feels like there are less clear, correct answers. Like, there are some perks that are just bad, but some of those perks are less bad if you play specific different ways.
I mean, you sound like me justifying when I use the Tysis in Warframe.
Well, okay, so, like, here's an example. Like, there's a perk that I have long thought was useless, and it's called Field Prep. And it makes you reload your weapon significantly faster while crouching. Okay? Well, that's a pain in the butt. However, if you're good at sliding and you slide a lot, you can reload while sliding, and it counts as crouching. So, based on that playstyle, like, if you like sliding around, as so many people that use shotguns seem to love to do, then that perk just became way more valuable because, oh, hey, I can reload my weapon real fast if I just slide. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are along those lines where, like, yeah, this has a purpose. There are fewer items that I've gotten that are just universally bad than was the case in Destiny 1.
Yeah, I really do think part of it for me is just being able to say very, very easily, like, I'm hunting for this item, and I'm going to do an activity that hunts me for that item, and that feels good to me. Like, let's go into this dungeon, and I can kill this boss, and maybe the roll will say that item drops, and I will know that I get a roll on that item.
Yeah, and that is a thing that doesn't exist as much now as it did in Destiny 1, but there are different types of activities that you would do to get a specific item, like the weapon forges. Like, you can go in and forge specific weapons by playing a little mini game. And I mean, mini game is in, like, it's basketball. You're killing things to get orbs to dunk in a goal, and you have to do it on a very, very short time frame. And that apparently is the activity that makes a forge light up and make your weapon for you. I don't know. Sure, it's fun as hell. Like, it's space basketball with guns is fun. I don't get it, but it's fun.
No, I mean, yeah, dunking orbs in Destiny does feel good.
It feels real good. So, I mean, yeah, like, I don't know why this is making a forge work, but sure, I'll do it. But, like, there's specific items that you can target by doing that activity specifically. But anyway, so the other thing that happened today is I, for some reason, got wrapped up in the race to World First on the new raid because, like, Bungie actually kind of set things up with reasonable objectives this time. So Garden of Salvation is the new raid, and it takes place in the Black Garden. And instead
Isn't that the last area on Venus in Destiny 1?
No, it's on Mars. The Black Garden is on Mars. I don't know why, but like you did a bunch of quests on Venus before getting to Mars. But yeah, the Black Garden is on Mars.
But so is this where we fought the nebulous evil?
Yeah, the nebulous
evil.
Yeah.
The big giant Vex in D1.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so like the final mission of Destiny 1 is the Black Garden.
Yeah.
Well, we're going back because the Vex are still up to their no good. And they set this up so like they've had a bunch of complaints about World First runs before of like, you know, being at a bad time for Eurogamers and because like a lot of times they would open on a reset day, like on a Tuesday or so. So this time around, they set it up with like the only version of the raid that's open right now is this challenge mode of the raid, and it essentially scales everyone down to 920 light, or scales you up to 920 light. So you basically go in with a fixed light level, which is the minimum light level of the raid. So no amount of farming will make a difference for the world's first challenge. So everyone goes in, like the weapons and the armor, the loadouts that they have are unique to them, but the light level is fixed for everybody trying it. And like there was a bunch of people starting up today trying this, and I happened to cross the Destiny Community Podcast stream where they had a bunch of different raiders kind of keeping tabs on their progress. So like I had it in the background while I was doing other things, and it was interesting to watch. Like some of the teams that I assumed would do well like struggled. Other teams that I had never heard of were like in serious contention for getting it. And then at like the 11th hour, some person that like wasn't even streaming at the beginning of the raid but kicked on their stream as they were fighting the final boss just came from out of nowhere and got World's First. And it's the first time a Euro team had gotten a World's First in Destiny. And it was a crazy ride to go through. And I found it interesting because, like, I don't normally watch this sort of thing, but I allowed myself to get sucked in as the process went, and they fought their way through the final encounter. And like the team that got there first was on that encounter for I think 4 hours. And I think all told, the raid was open about 7 hours before it got beaten. But it was just crazy that like there were 4 teams in contention, neck and neck during the entire thing, and then just within the last 30 minutes, this other team showed up on Twitch and ended up taking it.
A thing for FF14 that, as far as I can tell, was not true for WoW, is that the top guilds tended not to stream their World First attempts.
Mm-hmm. Because they didn't want other people to snipe their tactics.
In FF14.
I was good. That's true in WoW too. Or at least it wasn't. I mean, this WoW was before major streaming happened, but they wouldn't even release videos.
Yeah, here recently is the first time that I can ever remember serious raids in WoW streaming their attempts. And that's mostly just Method doing that. Like, for all I know, like, I know nothing about the group that won, but for all I know is they watched everyone else's stream for the first couple hours of struggling, and then ran in and took the experience of everything that they had learned and just executed on it. I don't know.
They were probably making their own attempts while somebody was analyzing other people's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because if there is definitely a big difference between watching somebody else do something and actually doing it. Those don't yield the same experience gains.
Yeah, which is weird because like we all kind of assumed that the person who had been on the boss the longest was going to eventually tip it over. Because like there was a good hour or so differential between the first person hitting the last boss and the next person hitting the last boss. But like there was DDoS drama going on and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Because of course there is. I I do want to say I really like this concept. This is kind of also why I enjoy watching Mario Maker speedruns, especially blind Mario Maker speedrun races, because there's something very satisfying to highly competitive PvE competition. To me, it is incredibly taxing on the game design resource to provide that, though.
Yeah. Well, and what was interesting about this group is they're now going to get thrust out into the spotlight, and they really weren't a wide known group in the first place, but specifically, if you go out to their Twitter, it's Ascend is the name of the clan, and they specifically say they are a Destiny speedrunning clan. And that their thing has been they've been working on speedrunning the raid content. So that's a different mindset than a lot of these raid groups went in with. If they specifically were working on sanding off the rough spots on running the older content, that is probably a skill set that very much applies to running new content, is figure out ways to do it more efficiently.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and also, theoretically getting to the hard part faster so that you can fail on the hard part. Fail faster is a mindset that's beneficial here.
It was definitely an entertaining afternoon, and I can totally see why you watch speedrunners do this. And it was especially interesting, to watch 4 different people trying on the same thing at the same time, because they were all going after it a little bit different.
I do think it would be cool to try and get that to be a more of an esports thing. Non-PvP esports is a really interesting idea to me.
Well, and I don't know if they still do this at BlizzCon, but for a while they used to have a raid that was crafted specifically for BlizzCon, and there would be a couple big guilds run through it.
It was one of the closest.
This?
It was one of the closest things to esports that I've ever actually enjoyed watching, but they've done it at a couple of BlizzCons.
Yeah,
Okay.
I loved that thing. It was great. It was so fun to watch, and sure, there were a bunch of silly mechanics, but it reminded me of what the convention fights are for Final Fantasy XIV. It's that same basic idea. I think competitive raiding from a match sort of standpoint might be interesting. Here's a new thing that no one has ever seen. We created it just for this event. Now, these 6 teams are going to try and figure out their way through it and race to the end.
Yep. And then have, with commentators would be fun.
Yeah, and that's why this specific instance was enjoyable, is the Destiny Community Podcast crew was sitting there. None of them were actually participating in the run.
Oh, okay. Now I'm better. And I was I don't know if I can watch a picture-in-picture of 4 different raids, and try and understand what's going on. But if they had, actual vodcasters, that would be
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so that's what they were doing, is basically they had a 4-way split screen, and each one of them was monitoring a bunch of different streams. So all in told, there were probably a couple dozen streams that were going after this. And anytime someone basically reached a point, they were trying to keep track of the 4 closest to the objective. And they would put those on screen. And then as somebody else leaped ahead, somebody would get knocked off of the screen and they'd put somebody else up.
Yeah, no, that's super cool.
Yeah, it was really fun to watch. Just because it went back and forth between there were probably 8 teams that were in various states of contention at various points.
Yeah, I highly recommend you check out some of the Mario Maker relay races from AGDQs. It's a very similar concept.
Well, and I really like the 4-way run of Final Fantasy V at the beginning of 4-Job Fiesta.
Yeah. Those are always especially fun because there is... Find out who has the divergent strategy and see, ooh, is this going to work out for them?
Sometimes it works, and usually it doesn't.
Some gambles happen. So, I've been trying to watch more Twitch lately, And one of the things that I've been trying to watch a lot more of is Loading Ready Run. And the other night, I happened to be watching Rhythm Cafe, and they were playing a game on it called Sayonara Wild Hearts.
That's definitely a game.
And while I'm sitting here watching it, I'm like, yeah, this is absolutely a Tam game. So I send him a link to the stream, and we're sitting there back and forth commenting about it. And I think Tam has since actually played it some more.
Yeah, I've played through about half of it. It's a weird game.
But was I wrong? Like it seemed like very much a you game.
No, it's really fun. It's the it's like what if Sonic the Hedgehog evolved into the modern day? Because it's basically what it is. It's a game where you're moving really fast, collecting, I don't know, hearts and stuff.
I mean, it seems to be part Sonic the Hedgehog bonus stages, part res.
Yeah. Well, and so to coalesce this thought, but so Sonic the Hedgehog, it's a cool game in concept. It tends to be kind of one note because the only thing that it can do to differentiate its gameplay is put obstacles in your path that can ruin your flow. And so, those aren't actually all that fun because the game isn't good at giving you enough messaging that they're going to happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sonic. So what this game does is it gives you a whole bunch of space to see what's going to come up next, or gives you music so that you can act in time with the music, and acting in time with the music leads to success. It's really, I find it really fun. It's really zen to play, and there's a bunch of stuff happening, and it's all really, really weird, but I'm never confused about what to do. It messages what I'm supposed to do really, really well, and so I just kind of chill my way through the music, and it's really fun. I'm not really totally sure what it's about, but it also doesn't really matter. It's got story, but I'm not sure it's story driven.
It has things happening.
Yeah, it's good at relaying a feeling with its levels without actually telling you anything, which is really kind of neat to me. It's also got a zillion different gameplay types based on some relatively straightforward inputs. I went on a motorcycle chase against a giant Robo Cerberus and had a dance fight and flew around an earthquake.
Yep, I understand that those are things. I've seen a lot of videos of this, and it's on my Switch now, so I am looking forward to trying it out.
It seems like the failure state is also super forgiving.
Oh, the failure state is record scratch, go back 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. Cool.
It goes back to the most recent start of a measure or something. I mean, I don't know enough about music to know if that's actually true, but...
Well, and you can do real bad and still get through it. You'll just get bronze instead of
I guess
gold
it's
or whatever.
I guess it's rating my performance or something, but I'm definitely not even paying attention to that.
It's got this weird Motorcycle Gang meets Power Rangers.
Yes.
Aesthetic.
It's my favorite magical girl game ever. I'm also fully aware that none of the words I have used to describe this game make sense together.
Whatever.
And yet they're all
the
true.
game's title is Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Yeah. I fly around as a magical girl and punch people's hearts out. It's as far as I've gotten.
And they also represent the tarot.
Yeah, there's some tarot thing also. That's also a thing. I don't even know. But it's super charming, and I like quite a bit.
What type of music is it playing?
That's an interesting question.
Varies wildly.
Does it vary a lot?
I don't. So my problem is I don't really know enough about music to answer this question.
I don't know how to describe the music in this.
I could call it chillwave, but then a bunch of people who like chillwave would be like,
so
you don't even know what that music is.
It's not necessarily very high energy.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah. It can be very intense, but it's also chill, if that makes any sense. I don't know. It does vary a lot. It's become my, after having beaten Untitled Goose Game, it's become my game I play right before bed. I'm not sure which of the two of those results in weirder dreams, but yeah, it's fun. Definitely recommended.
Okay. I look forward to trying it.
So, Cities of Sigmar.
Oh boy.
We talked about this a little bit when it was announced.
Yeah.
But Games Workshop is taking the rest of the Order faction that didn't already have an army and sticking them into Cities of Sigmar.
So is this one of these side games?
One of the two. No, this is for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, this is like an actual... It's basically a codex. But it's the codex for, hey, sorry about all of these units that were from the old game that didn't have a home. We gave
There's a way for you to use them again.
Yeah, well, there's a way for... It's not just a way for you to use them, but like a way for you to use them in a actually coherent with the rest of the game kind of way.
Some of them were technically usable before.
Yes.
Technically.
Right. Yeah.
I had a lot of like expectations and things that I was expecting to see out of this book and got none of them, which would normally not be a terribly great recommendation of the book. Except that it's a weird book. Like the general structure of the Age of Sigmar books as sort of a I don't know the word for it, but they're designed kind of like StarCraft factions, where when you get the book, it's pretty clear. There's a couple of variants, and that those variants may change your actual army composition, but the overall theme is pretty clear. And mostly this is because, like, in Age of Sigmar, there aren't that many units per faction. And so a lot of it is kind of tuning around a relatively limited selection and then making some larger scale changes that make a bunch of your personal interests click. So, like, hey, I want to play big trees in Sylvaneth. And so I'm going to have a list that skews more towards that versus I want to have lots and lots and lots of dudes. And I'll have a list that skews more towards that. But, like, overall, I'm going to have this combination of unit types because that's what the faction does. And Cities of Sigmar is not that at all.
It's definitely very different than any of the battle tomes they put out so far.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, I could sit around, I could and have fiddled around for hours trying to figure out what it's doing. I think part of it is I have words for what I was thinking before. Every book I've seen so far has a clear design intent. Do this, make this choice, build in kind of this shape, and you're good. You know, oh hey, this is the big trees, this is the I bring, giant rock dragon things. This is I bring, giant swarms of rats, or I bring, tiny numbers of giant rats, or whatever the case may be. The design intent isn't immediately clear, and I was kind of expecting it to be, which means there's a lot more choices to make. Like, I expected that I was going to get I was expecting to get a city that was, or a faction option that was like, play my existing tree people with wood elves, play them together, it'll be great. And like, I didn't really get that. I sort of got that, but there's other way more interesting composition choices for that particular city. It's like the way the book is structured, it's, showcasing different cities in this fantasy world, and each city has like different tactics and strengths and weaknesses. If you like playing elves, you're probably going to be somewhat disappointed. If you like playing dwarves, you probably just doubled your options overall across the entire game, despite the fact that there are two other dwarf factions.
Nice.
And like, it's very much more classic dwarves and not...
I was going to say, the existing dwarf factions are basically, like, one of them is steampunk dwarves.
Yeah.
And the other one is...
What was a single unit before? Because it's the Slayers faction, right?
We turned Slayers into a full army.
That's right. Yes. They're their own faction.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of other types of dwarves that that they already have models for.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so this is where they all live now, pretty much.
Except for the one that got discontinued. This is not where they live. They're actually functional, and you can play them, and it makes sense. Whereas before, where you could technically put them in army lists and play them, and they didn't make any sense.
They actually look pretty good now. Yeah, less luck if you like elves.
Still no normal elves?
No.
They didn't
they
add any, and they removed a lot.
Yeah, they didn't add any, and they removed almost all of the existing ones.
So did Slaanesh just eat them all? Like, is that their explanation?
And that was their explanation before.
Yeah, you only really get, like, turbo weird elves.
As it should be.
But it'd be nice to get, like, you know, something that wasn't weird sea elves or witch elves.
Yeah.
Dark elves
I really
made it
don't
out
see the
pretty
problem
much okay.
I know that
Yeah.
everybody else hates elves, but it's, like, the thing I want to actually play.
I mean, you and I had a lengthy discussion about this, but so basically, like, witch elves and sea elves are among the two possible options in my world for elves.
I know.
But, like, so no high elves, no wood elves.
No high elves. Wood elves sort of exist, but, like...
They didn't decrease the number of wood elves, at
They
least.
didn't decrease the number of wood elves, but I wouldn't really call them... They are more playable now than they were before, but they're not exciting or interesting.
I mean, aren't the plant people basically, this is what happened to the wood elves?
No, they split the wood elf faction in half from the elf side and the plant people side, and the Sylvaneth are exclusively the tree people side. There's no elves at all. And, like, they're a neat faction, and I enjoy them, because I like playing giant, stompy trees. But there's not a lot of... There previously hasn't been a lot of, like, regular people representation in the game. And...
This book brought back basically all the Empire models.
Yeah, this book brought back basically all of the what do regular people do, which I think is a good change.
One of the things that came back with this set of models was the model that used to be Carl Franz, who is now a Free Guild General on Griffin, is actually still a really cool model.
It is a very cool model.
And then some Empire Demigryph Knights, which had me kind of inspired, and I might convert some Stormcast to basically be them.
Ash has a burning desire to play every possible factional combination that allows you to run multi-wound basic infantry.
I mean, first of all, this is a valuable thing to have. Second of all, I like big stompy things. I don't want to put 10 million things on the table. I'll just put like 10 much better things on the table.
Yeah, I've been looking for that army because I also like this thing, and I also like playing small elite forces. But I haven't yet found that thing for me that I like. Demigryph Knights, the All Griffins thing does come close. But not quite what I want yet. I'm hoping that I get it at some point. They make something that's like, I don't know. I'm sad that they didn't give me that in Sylvaneth, because I feel like medium-sized stompy trees would be the perfect solution, but no such luck.
Does the Sylvaneth army have a lot of small things?
Yes.
There's no way to get around really taking Dryads or something Dryad-sized as your basic infantry.
Yeah, you don't really get you can take other stuff, but you're gonna have to include it at some point in your list.
The Age of Sigmar army construction restrictions are basically, you need a leader, you need 2 units that count as, well, at least for small games, you need 2 units that count as battle line, which for the most part is basic infantry, except some leader and faction combinations allow you to take other things as battle line.
Yeah. It's like, hey, if this kind of thing is your leader, then these things become like regular units. Like in the weirdest case from Cities of Sigmar, if you take a steam tank commander and that is your leader, then steam tanks become battle line.
I mean, that makes sense.
Which, sure, but also, what? Sadly, nothing will make gyrocopters battle line. If they did, I would just run gyrocopters, because those things are hilarious.
I'm not going to say that's probably for the best, but...
Dwarf helicopters are really funny.
Really good.
They are also really good.
This seems to be the thing that somebody would show up to a tournament with like 20 of these, and weird things would happen.
It's true. They did... That was the other thing, is with this book, they also evaporated one of the top placing tournament lists.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting to see. There was a top ranking tournament list that was using some of the old elf units that were only just barely coherent, and they removed all of those units from the game.
Is that possibly why?
I don't know. I mean, so they removed they removed something like 40 units from the game.
I think it was 20-ish, but
20-ish, something like 60 or 70% of them were Elven units.
Mostly old fine cast models.
Yeah, mostly old models, mostly from like the old days when you knew it was a high elf because it had a giant pointy cone hat, because that was apparently the aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically all of those are gone.
Which makes me think they must have some idea that they want to go with.
Maybe. There's been not a lot to suggest that they even want elves in their setting.
I was gonna say, it doesn't seem like they want elves in their setting.
Like, they have, other than the aforementioned, like, witch and snake elves and the sea elves.
It's been suggested that Games Workshop wants everything they own to be as copyrightable as possible.
Yes. Hence, ogres became ogrons and things like that.
Yeah.
And weird spelling aside, their elves are kind of generic.
Yeah. And I don't actually have a problem with them like getting rid of super generic stuff, because there was a lot of really generic fantasy stuff that
Yeah, and Warcraft stole a lot of it.
Yep.
So I don't blame them for wanting to try and ensure that doesn't happen again.
And the whole sequence of events there is just kind of weird, because ultimately Games Workshop is a sequence of they wanted to make product but they couldn't get licensing for it.
Mm-hmm.
Warcraft is also a sequence of we want to make a computer game version of a thing but we can't convince them to give us the rights.
Mm-hmm.
So It's like this derivative of a derivative.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
I gotta say, somebody at Games Workshop, possibly no longer at Games Workshop, must look at Warcraft on like a weekly basis and just sigh for the missed opportunity. Like, somebody made a call that they were not going to do a deal with Blizzard, and whoo boy,
several deals with Blizzard.
Yeah.
Yep.
So somebody maybe made the wrong decision,
because Warcraft and StarCraft both.
Yeah.
Yep. Their current IP approach is let anybody do whatever they want, and we'll continue the ones that do well.
Yep.
Like, they currently, if you want to make a Warcraft game, apparently all you have to do is call. I don't know if that's actually the truth, but it seems that way.
It does, and I do suspect that stems from, oh god, the boat we missed this time.
Yeah.
Let it never ever happen again.
Because, like, if you could pick up, like, actually official plastic WoW miniatures of your character and, like, cross-play them in various games, like, hey, we've got a skirmish game or a big game where you can, like, we can do big. I find Horde versus Alliance kind of tedious, but it would fit well for like a war game. It could actually work, but it's not the world we live in. In the meantime, people pick up, Griffins and Stormcast and paint them in Alliance colors.
Maybe if that had happened, we would still see StarCraft seeing any sort of support.
That too.
R.I.P. StarCraft.
It had a good run.
I feel like it's still not the most unloved of children.
So,
Like,
I guess this is kind of an interesting thing. What the heck is... I guess Blizzard is really focusing on Overwatch right now.
That and Hearthstone?
They really seem to.
Oh, I guess that and Hearthstone. Yeah, I forgot about Hearthstone.
Because they've basically let, Heroes of the Storm die, too.
Yup. Diablo 3 isn't getting a ton of love.
Oh.
It's getting more love than StarCraft.
It's sure.
Like, they haven't forgotten it exists, so...
I feel like we're gonna get some stories eventually, like, I don't think it's gonna be soon, but there's gonna be some Titan retrospectives that we're gonna hear about that are gonna be bleak. Because it sure feels like that game killed that company.
Trying to make Lightning Strike twice is really hard.
Yeah.
I feel like I really would have enjoyed that game if it were, a Destiny-like game set in the Overwatch universe.
I feel like there are a lot of things it could be.
Real?
Well,
That's definitely
Overwatch
one of them,
exists.
Overwatch exists. It is effectively Team Fortress 2 with MOBA character designs.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a fine game for that, but like it's also not a game that I want to play on a regular basis. I mean, I think Ammo, you're the one of us that's played it the most.
Probably, and even then, I haven't played it very much recently.
Like, I really like the universe, and I really like the characters.
Yeah.
But, I mean, meh. The
Yeah,
arcade is interesting.
Yeah, and even then, after a while, it's just kind of, okay, it's this again.
Another game that I like, I'm not real sure what it's going to be like, is the Square Avengers title.
Hey, it's going to have...
It's going to have
Kamala
Kamala Khan. I don't know anything about
that's a
that,
big
but it looks
plus.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like it's starting to sound that they're going for a Destiny-style game with Marvel superheroes. It's like there's an armor and a gear system, and
I mean, they already had Diablo 3 with Diablo with Marvel superheroes, and it was pretty popular. So
It was really fun.
it was really fun. The only thing that concerns me is there was a thing that I was reading that basically champions are unique. So like if you want to play the Hulk, I can't play the Hulk. If you want to play Thor, I can't play Thor.
right.
And that's okay, but like I don't know. I think that's going to be limiting.
I mean, a lot of games work that way.
Yeah.
Like Marvel Ultimate Alliance works that way.
And there are a bunch
Vermintide
of
works
ways.
that way.
There are a bunch of ways that they can very easily make that less punitive. Like, okay, I can't play Thor, but I can play Beta Ray Bill. Okay, I can't play Hulk. I can play She-Hulk or Abomination.
Yeah.
Because
then,
I feel like if that happens, it's like 90% likely to be implemented as skins. It's probably not going to be a thing.
Well, and the problem there is like if they're going to allow different skins of the same character to play against each other, then do you set up a scenario where if you didn't spend any money, you're at a disadvantage because like you can't swap out alternate skins? Because this all started in my head because like this week they released some shots of various alternate skins. So like for Hulk, they've got a Joe Fixit skin in a like a zoot suit.
Nice.
There's like a more like full on Norse Thor costume that's like more traditional armor than whatever the outfit with the silver discs on it is.
It's chainmail. Sometimes scale mail. Depends.
Yeah, scale mail, I think. But yeah, I mean, I would love it if like one of the alternate costumes was Beta Ray Bill. That would be amazing. Well, is there anything else? Because I think we're running out of time. Any short topics?
Like they go.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.